right, daily trading recap for this Tuesday, the 11th of January, 2022. Pretty slow day out there in the market. Not looking at the replay of the Profitly chat. There's just literally zero red names pretty much the entire market hours. Pretty sad and unfortunate to see. And I was just very hard pressing and ready to tackle any of those morning dumpers that were just going to pop up on the scanner, but none did. And I was just all alone with myself and my thoughts. So good day spent with them. Just marking internals on the day, just for reference again, as of 11 minutes after the close here, $243 billion volume traded on the NASDAQ, $308 billion traded on the NYSE and OTC markets, $2.5 billion. SPY looking at just under a percent, 1% green day today. So it looks like we are going to have a little dip bottom here after that all-time high slap rejection send off down to 460. So now we're coming back up to that 470 mark, just under there at the close here. No real trades for me. Took 2 shares swinging of DWAC, sold 1 share intraday for the nice move that I did have, but that was the only real trade that I did. And paper trading, everything else, just getting some experience under my belt with SBEV and PSTI, trying an overnight little short there, but faking out both ways. Nothing much or hard convicted that I had going into today, and really at the end of today, looking for tomorrow. Not really anything else that I'm so hard or keen on as of right now. But let's get into a little individual breakdown here quick. Again, SBEV, this was all paper. Was kind of faked out a little bit to not try to take this one actually short because of that lack of connection for the initial spike. Of when it has that immediate gap up, I do get a little bit, it just throws me off a little bit spooked out, you could call it, of it when it comes out with news catalyst, because this news catalyst today was they got their beverage brand in Florida Walmart's. Awesome. Okay, let's shoot it up. Let's shoot the price up. Other fundamentals, it's American Beverage Company, 20 million float, very small market cap. Another downtrending daily history of these little kind of blurps. If we take out the volume today, that just dwarfs all these other volume candles. It does have a little history of some influences of little one and done volume days, but today certainly blew those volume days out of the water. And like I was mentioning, it was kind of feeling ready to get short this one, but that little hesitation or that little gap of the actual price action does tend to throw me off for this morning dump strategy that I look at. But even at that, as it does show the failure to maintain VWAP for price action, using that as a potential entry point, even from there 1.7-ish area, trading it all the way down to 1.5, that's a nice little easy profit sit. As a short, as a little morning dump playbook strategy there in itself. It does have a basing, starts to reclaim and push back above VWAP before market open, then starts to play around, finagle itself during market hours. And that's when I was all paper in that kind of bored state, but just also in a little educational state as well of, hey, let's try and just short into morning tops here with all paper. Just very educational, just literally trying to throw a dart, pick the top of what I thought these little short reclaim moves were going to be. So I thought potentially it was going to be a VWAP rejection here, got stopped out. Like trying to get a 169 or 17-ish push there. Goes to a new high from there. Get a red candle here. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be the high. Start in another paper trade there. Ends up getting stopped out as it spikes in a new high day from there. And then I go, okay, maybe I'll get a little bit of room, maybe to prove itself that it is actually going to be the downside. So puts in a top at 1.9, then pulls back a little bit harder, and then 1.84 or 1.85 is when I start that. Another entry there, and that ended up being the nice little pull off of there. It does have a kind of double toppy or retempt there to try to double top that, but ends up failing at that point, which still maintained my position, my paper position there. So then turned it into a practice for covering session. We first get a nice little pull under VWAP 1.7-ish. I let it play out a little bit longer, and then just going through the role of, okay, if I was actually holding this type of position size, and now factoring in maybe if I was trying to paper cut myself all the way on the top of that, had I taken those losses, okay, now what type of trade does this have to be in order to offset those losses? And I don't really want to trade that way, but that's also kind of a mentality that has to come along with that picking top style of trade. So keeping that in mind a little bit, while also taking safe profits as they're there, but not trying to force anything more out of this chart that is there just so I can make up profits or make up losses that way. So, cutting myself down to like half a position size, as I thought it was holding pretty decently under VWAP, thinking, hey, I don't want to play with fire too much, and I'll just take the safe profits, take the money when I can, not when I have to, as it's spiking against me, going rapidly, taking hard slippage as it's spiking to 1.867 onto new highs above 1.9 there, had it done that. But then, of course, it does have a little attempt to try and rise above VWAP, but then fails off from there to new lows, getting a nice little cover at 1.6, and then finally leaving that last little lottery ticket position on, which again I could give so much more room and leeway, but it just had such a nice little sell off there, and 155 was that kind of key target level I was eyeing, not trying to take much more than this little bottom from that pre-market of 1.5, which I could have waited to. Of course, it's just nitpicking at that point, but yeah, off of that nice little third attempt for picking a top short, that was turned out to be a nice little attempt there. Definitely looking at this one for a first screen day overnight short going into just lack of volume, lack of follow through second day, and it's looking like it's already going to fail VWAP here, coming down pretty hard testing that point as of right now. So that's going to be paper for sure. I'm trying to hold that overnight for borrow fees. I'm still in the educational experimental phase with that playbook trade going overnight on these first screen days, and I think that's just a market time sentiment of where we are right now, certainly not a playbook trade for any and all times of all markets like all playbooks are, but yeah, certainly for what has been shown on these first screen day plays, like I was trying to get into on PSTI, really did not have any opportunity, but no real push on this one either to squeeze me out or just make me crazy that I couldn't get any amount of sleep. So yeah, this one was paper as well, just taking a mental position, holding myself accountable to like 183 that I had. It did have a little rise before the close of after hours. Pre-market was just weak and no volume, dojing. Opened weak for after that morning bell. Opens below VWAP, continues to push new lows here, but does reclaim and start to test that 188 point. And this little arrow is moved over here when I was getting out of, okay, it's above 183. Do I play it there? Do I just try to risk fire? Because I want to be seeing this thing dying off, just to not have any amount of strength for that second day. And of course, I get stopped out and played like a freaking fiddle. But that correlates back again to, I've mentioned in daily trading recaps in the past, of trading these things from a position of power. Had I got a short position from this 1.9 point, or, if trading it closer to the after hours point of getting a position there at 1.9 of, maybe I saved myself a few cents or what's unknown for the pre-market tomorrow, but still from having those extra few cents, now that allows myself to clean the perspective and now trade this from a totally higher advantage point of just saying almost having zero involvement in the trade, because my entry point is just so far from what the chart price action is actually doing that, hey, you can play your little games and do this little rise here and go a little bit higher than that opening price and play your little games there and look like you're having strength, which would normally stop me out like it did here with this little mental paper trade. But then sure enough, it goes to sell off. And that's what I want to capitalize on, is to not be in this situation of having these little fake outs and being in that position of power. The better entry points is that next step for me in this trading career of, okay, now we're establishing the position. It's the same trade, but it's from such a higher and better advantage point that allows for more trades to work out as winners because of that risk profile and how you're able to hold them better because of that. That was PSTI. Yeah, this one was really not even the best option. BBLG was the best option for a first screen day overnight, even through the sell-off that it did have in the afternoon session into the close, and even through that overnight drop-off from dropping from 5.2 coming to this pre-market just around 4.8. Nice little profit percentage move there. Even through both of those, market hours still showed a sentiment of little death and destruction from all of that. So really didn't want to take any short position on this one. Probably would have been paper anyway, of trying to play a shorting into tops or shorting into VWAP projection, because I didn't feel there was enough incentive or downside still left in this one for how many times it already did sell off. These two times, both in that afternoon sell-off and the overnight sell-off there. But sure enough, it did have room left in the downside of whether they're bag longs or just still speculative shorts trying to hop in on this thing. Still plenty of downside in this one that I wasn't a part of, but glad I can reflect on it in the past here in hindsight. Last one I wanted to mention, DWAC. This was actual trader for me. I took 2 shares on it. Big swing in position size, big dollar position we're moving here. 2 shares, again, of just what I feel the market has been showing. And yeah, these swinger style of trades that I don't really want to force huge position size on, that I have to be focusing on every tick and being constantly involved in the markets, especially in after hours or what these things are doing. Just going to take my time and be a part of it and have that actual physical cash in it to be a part of it and get that emotional side of it as well. But yeah, keep that position size low to just enforce the idea that this is, I don't do these very often, but I do feel that the trend, the pattern was certainly there. And this is a very nice percentage move today. After trading it, trying to go short yesterday for that squeeze that it had of kind of getting a little hint there that, okay, it's still holding decently. It had a little bit of sell-off after it was moving a little bit too quickly in that afternoon session, sold off just before the close. But if we get some volume today, I could see this thing putting in some nice moves over the next few 2, 3, 4 trading days. I see $70 as a potential target easy for this thing to surpass that high in the early December of last year. That's funny to say here. But yeah, as we were moving a little bit too quickly, I was just saying, God, don't force yourself too quick for the price action. Of kind of don't exhaust yourself, because we could get harder pulls and this thing could turn into a dud if it tries to go too quick too soon. Let's build a little bit more, continue to press, and then we could eventually, within 2-3 weeks, maybe get some nice squeeze again. If other market movers start to move as well and other attention starts to come back to this one, like, hey, DWAC's up, let's keep slowly bringing more consolidation and attention to this ticker to eventually get somewhat close to that initial squeeze that happened in October there. Gosh, that was October already. Wow. But even intraday today, very nice move, closing at 14%. It's showing there, so we'll see what the next few days have in store for my last little share that's remaining on this one. Got in on a double bottom as it was breaking with strength and with volume above this little V. Had a nice perk after that. Then that became obviously the risk point, and it did start to pull back close to that, which was getting very close to that cut point, but surely enough, bottom there. Had another VWAP rise, pulled back again to that same point. As it was holding, I got another share slice, and it just had to, of what I would be thinking with a full-size position of, man, this is the opportunity. It's just putting in your lap of saying, hey, please size in more. I'm going to go up from here. So taking a second share from there. And sure enough, it does have an awesome rise here into the afternoon session. And just kind of Willy Wonka's trades crazy from this lunch session and the afternoon session, but that is that position of power of not really having to. I wasn't even in front of the screens for the afternoon session, but even at that, of not having to be so subject to the individual price ticks and being able to sustain a price move from $65 all the way down below $61, and still being able to maintain the discipline and the perspective of what this chart could be over the long term. Man, that's how I want to be trading always, is to be that smart money and to be that free from emotion type of money that way. That is really all I had. Keep it a nice, short, and simple. SBEV is really all that I'm thinking for anything paper that I'm doing. That one's going to be paper, of course, or anything real. I just have zero indication right now or conviction on anything, but we'll do a few more scans here, and especially after the after hours close for anything tomorrow, but still kind of trying to keep those first screen day movers to the short side in mind of, I believe their sentiment is death, and especially if they do hold up a little bit like SBEV, their sentiment is usually a little bit of death going into that second day during this overnight session here. So we'll keep our eyes on it, and if it becomes a repeatable pattern, then I might start to stake up that claim a little bit more and actually take a real position, use day trades, use the margin account to go short these things, use those overnight borrow fees, and put my money where my mouth is on those types of trades. But that is all that I had. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.